Morning, noobs. I'm here with David Ozawa, who is off the back of his sweep of the Crucible 9 GT with Grey Knights. Fun fact, I just looked him up as well, and he's currently the #1 rated Grey Knight player in the ITC. So we're going to talk to him and hopefully learn a little bit of wisdom and go through his list and all of his matchups from the Crucible. So how you doing, David? Good
Yeah, I'm
morning.
doing good, man. Good, man.
Awesome. Well, um, hey, let's just get straight into it. How long have you been playing, and why? And why did you choose Grey Knights?
So I've played about, I think it's like 7 or 8 years now. Um, I started playing Eldar. I loved playing Eldar. I used to do. I don't know if you know this. Like, do you remember the old double seer councils or seer councils?
I
Well,
just
I
started
always
playing when right before ninth hit, so I'm a pretty new player.
Okay. So like seer councils are like like Eldar like have the psychers, and seer councils were like these units of just warlocks and farseers. And after like I started getting into more into the farseers and the warlocks, I love doing it, but like I don't know, the toughness 3, it always bothered me, like the combat. So then I got into Tau, and I'll be honest, I built a lot of Tau up. And then I sold it all. Like I just
So you painted
it
it
was
and
just
everything?
like, what's that?
So you painted it and everything?
Painted it, everything. I was playing it for a while, and I enjoyed playing it, but then I realized like so much part of the game is just in the shooting phase. Like I didn't like that. Like it was just all shooting. So then like I started to play Space Wolves and other Marines, and then I started playing Grey Knights maybe like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I love Grey Knights. I'm kind of known as like the Grey Knight guy now. And I think the thing that always attracted me to Grey Knights was the ability to just hit every phase. Like you got that. You have your movement, which obviously all units can do. But they've always had like the Gate of Infinity, which always helped out. And like the shunting Dread Knights always helped out. And then you had the psychic phase, the psychic phase, like the psychic phase, everybody knows for Grey Knights is like usually people think it's like right now I don't even think it's not as great as everybody's thinking, but it's still very good. It's one of the best you can have. And then obviously shooting, Grey Knights always put out a lot of shots. They got bolters on everybody, storm bolters on everybody. And then this combat, all the units have weapons. So like I loved it. It was just like I kind of went into every game. I'm like, okay, what part of the Grey Knights am I going to be like leaning on this game? And I'm like, I'm going to lean on combat this game because they're fighting this, or I'm going to lean on the psychic phase. So it's like, I'm kind of one of those players that, like, when I sit down, like, I don't just like, okay, this is my strategy. I'm doing it. I'm like, okay, this is my general strategy. But I got to adapt in game because if you want to win, you got to adapt. Things aren't going your way. You got to be able to quickly, like, readjust. And Grey Knights do that so well. I mean, they have the combat. I mean, they do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't do anything like I mean, they do the psych phase amazing, but they don't have like, they just have every step. They have every phase. They can do every phase and they can compete in any phase. Like anybody sits somebody down, oh, you have some psychers in your army? I have like all the psychers. So like any phase you want, they can go in there. And if you need that part to win the game, then you got to lean on that more. You can do that. You could be like, this is how I'm going to play right now. And they're just very adaptable. I love it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And what do you think of those firstborn models, huh? How about the
The
baby
which one?
carrier? Well, let's
Oh, you know, I've always kind of liked them. I mean, everybody always calls them barrier carriers, but I just kind of like the way they look. You got this armored guy walking around in an armored suit. Like I think it's supposed to be the same armor and everything. It's supposed to be like, it's just kind of cool to me. I don't know.
yeah.
It's just always been me. Of course, he's got the big sword, and it's just fun, man. I love it.
They're really divisive, but I've always liked them too. I well,
I have seen really cool conversions lately where they seal that in and they put a head on, and
yeah.
it looks awesome. Like I'm like some of the things you could do with 3D printing just looks really cool now.
Yeah, I need to actually start throwing out some 3D printing videos myself. Are you a printer?
No, I do not. My buddy, some of my friends are doing it, and I've asked them to like print me some like weapons and stuff before, and I saw how they were. But
Yeah,
yeah, usually I just get what I need if I need it. But nice thing about Grey Knights is like I have so many bits in every kit, so like
it's true.
I've got kits that I can kind of pull with wherever I need.
Yeah, it's it's
It's kind
it's
of like
true.
a
It's
better about.
I have so many Stormbolters because I think like a Strike Squad box, right? It's supposed to be 10 models, but they come with like 16 Stormbolters or something. So you have like
Yeah.
just so many extra Stormbolters.
No,
It's
I
silly.
definitely got like storm bolters on my Space Wolves models because I play Space Wolves for fun sometimes too, and I gotta definitely have some Space Wolf like Grey Knight storm bolters on Space Wolf guys.
Very cool. Well, how was the Crucible 9? Like, what was the terrain like? You went up against, I mean, there were some really good players there. The Art of War guys were there. Nick Nanavati, also piloting Grey Knights. He came in second. That same event, Jack Harpster was there with his Blood Angels. How was the event overall? It was down in Florida, right?
Oh yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Tim. He runs the 40K event there. Craig hosts the event. He always runs an amazing event. Tim is always very professional. Reggie, he does a great job. He usually runs the competitive tournament. Well, he always runs a competitive tournament. Those three guys, I mean, you go to one of their events, it's amazing. I gotta give a big shout out to them. They're great guys. Not only they're great, people, and they run a wonderful tournament. So they were using the GW terrain,
Okay.
like the four pieces that are kind of like the line of sight blocking, and the outside pieces. Um, so some of it had some like they had some like boulders and stuff too instead of the ruins on some of the maps, just because I think they ran out of ruins. But like it always like stayed the same with like line of sight blocking for this. First floor was block line of sight. Um, so the competition was intense. I know like all the Art of War guys. Lennon's been a long time friend of mine. I think that's the only reason I've gotten such to be such a better player is I used to play him all the time at the game store, the local game
That's
store,
awesome.
and he's so hard to beat. Oh my god, he knows the game in and out. Like he knows how to like he taught me how to do like how to get like that extra little push when you need it, like where to do it. He taught me how. He showed me so many things. Richard Siegler, just like he wasn't there. He wasn't there at Crucible. He had his like dissertation due or something. I heard.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like they're all world class players. Nick is like such a great guy, such a good player. He's like a top world player right there. Harpster, I met him for the first time at that event. I did not want to play his list. I was looking at his list and I was like, damn, like that's
He's one of
that
the
looks
only
like
ones. Yeah, he's one of the only ones making Blood Angels actually work right now. Like I know a lot of Blood Angels players are down on the army right now, but
I mean,
like Harpster is continually like top 5 in it.
I know he does. He's. I mean, all the God of War guys. They're world class players. You're not gonna play anybody else like them when you get a game with them. Like not only that, they practice with each other too, so they're like top notch on all the armies pretty much.
Yeah.
John was running Imperial Knights this time, something that he was kind of like trying out, I think, and he liked how well they were painted. So I mean, he had a couple hard matchups. I know that kind of some dice swung didn't swing his way, but I'm glad I didn't have to place them. Honestly, what happened was the pairings were um, win loss pairings. It wasn't points pairings. So
Oh,
like
really?
let's say
Okay.
yeah, so they did the way Orlando Open, the U.S. Open for Orlando, GW did theirs.
Right.
So it's win path. So let's say like if you won 2 games and you lost a game, you would get paired with someone that won one loss randomly. Or like let's say you won, we won the first 4 games. Everybody that's won the first 4 games, you'd be paired with everybody in there randomly in that same bracket, like
Oh, okay.
not bracket, but in that same group.
Right.
So it's called win path. So whoever's on your same win path as you're currently on, you get randomly paired with. And I got lucky in the pairings.
I noticed. Well, okay, so I mean, we're gonna get into your matchups particularly. I did notice you didn't play any of the Art
I
of
did not have
War
to play.
guys.
I did not have to play a single Art of War guy, and I felt bad about that. But You know, that I've never beaten Richard. I've used to beat John in our practice games at back home, but now that he's in Art of War, I never get to play him. I'm sure he'd just destroy me. But I thought I was gonna have to play them. The last 3 rounds of the event, I got pared down every single round, and I know that the TO organizer messaged them because like there might be some kind of like error in the algorithm. For
Huh.
me to get pared down 3 games, for me like it's supposed to be pure random, which for programming it's impossible. But for me to get pared down the last 3 games in a row, even though like I was like second to highest, third highest on the points always,
Hmm.
like the odds in that is very rare, very hard. So I'm not too sure. I mean, I guess I got very lucky,
Well, I mean, even
but
so, you went up against some wild lists. So you fought
uh,
the mirror match twice.
yeah,
You fought Salamanders, Custodes, Drukhari, and then I definitely want to pick your brain about this Freebooters list because it
pennies
was
list.
buggy spam with those Wazbom Blastajets, which are just like absurd. They're basically
That
flying laser chickens, but better.
that's one of the best lists. That's one of the best lists that you could run with Orks, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that list is insane. I really thought I was gonna lose that game when I'm going into it. I think I was down myself, but I
Well,
do that a lot. I kind of play very cautiously. So
cool. Well, I mean, that's kind of my play style too. Well, at least I'm trying to learn to do that. I'm getting out of that mindset where like I want every unit to be maximally effective every turn all the time, which like leaves my units out to dry and stuff like that. So I'm trying to learn to pull back, like play KG turns 1 and 2, and then slam forward and do all the things that I need to do. So
it's so hard to tell because sometimes you need to slam forward. Sometimes you need to go ham. I get like I was talking with, yeah, it's just you got to the more games you play against more armies and the different kind of players you play, the more experience you have, so that you kind of know what to do in every situation. And with Grey Knights, it's really important because of all the different kits they have, toolkits they have. You can kind of like strategize yourself in game. I actually had a conversation with Nick. We all went out to eat like almost every night, and Nick plays his Grey Knights extremely differently than I play my Grey Knights.
yeah,
He's what's that?
he's known as a passive player. Like, on the Art of War YouTube videos, if anybody's checked those out, he'll flat out say like he likes to sit in a corner for like 2 or 3 turns and just gather up like passive points and then do something later.
Yeah, he is. He is similar to me in that way. I know John is like almost pure aggression. Lennon,
Beautiful.
he plays very aggressively a lot of games. I'm similar to Nanavati, where I'm a much more passive style player. But to me, Nanavati we're talking about, Nanavati likes to trade units with Grey Knights a lot. I just don't like to trade. I think that's why he runs the interceptors heavily, and I don't. I run the purifiers. I try to hold my ground and not take losses and try to take like small gains throughout the course of the game. And he's more apt to go out there and trade a unit for a unit. So I think that's kind of like shown in our list building too. He's running a lot more interceptors. He's put a lot more points in that kind of stuff. And I have the apothecary and the squad of purifiers, which I kind of use to hold ground, and especially the middle of the board. It's so key in the current edition.
Well, I mean, you're already discussing the list. You want to just jump right into the list and
Yeah, that's fine.
go for it?
So I'm thinking about currently moving on, switching a little bit, but I'll talk about that later, I guess. I was running 5 Dread Knights in the list total, 2 Grandmasters and 3 regular.
Hmm.
I was running before the edition changed at the U.S. Open. I went with I had 3 Dread Knights,
Yeah.
and I was like the odd duck. And then I added the 4th one when the ninth edition, when the new book came out. And then before the event, I added the 5th one and got like a couple practice games in with it. Yeah, the 5 Dread Knights in the current meta is very strong. Um, that's the kind of reason I did that. But it's mostly a meta choice because of the armies that you're gonna have to fight as you keep trying to win the tournament. So I had sword bear. I had 2 patrols, sword bearers with Grandmaster. Sorry, I didn't look at the list lately, but it's
No
Grandmaster
problem.
Dread Knight. You're good. He had so I took the OPSEC Warlord trait, which really helps out because I put the 3+ symbol one time only, and the shunt move where he gets targeted
Yeah.
and he moves away. I put that on there as a one time only, and it really helps out because like he shunts around, he can kind of steal objectives, which is really good for points. And then I had this one squad of strike squad in there, and 2 Nemesis Dread Knights, just sword. All my Dread Knights have heavy side cannon, Gatling silencer. The one Grandmaster and the Sword Bearers has a hammer, and the other ones all have the swords.
Yeah.
That was that patrol.
And it looks like you have a teleporter only on one of the
One sword bearer.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, pretty
And then
standard or pretty like standard builds for the Nemesis grade or the normal dreadnoughts or dread knights. You don't want to put the hammers on them because hitting on force sucks.
Yeah, hitting on forwards is bad with the regular Dread Knights. I put the one hammer on the one guy in case I need to fight like an Imperial Knight. Anything that I need that extra damage. It actually happened in one game. I fought the Custodes player. It kind of failed me because he made all his 4+ symbols, which happens sometimes, especially against Custodes.
Yeah.
But like sometimes you need that one hammer, I feel like, to really go in and just, hey, this guy's on the board. I need to take him out, and this hammer can go in and just do a whole ton of damage. But yeah, I always take the heavy side cannon, the Gatling silencer, and the sword, pretty much, and everybody else.
That sweep attack is so nice, and the model for the sword is so cool.
Yeah, it is just a pure amount of shooting that comes out of the heavy side cannon, the Gatling silencer. It's very good. It's especially in the meta. It puts out so many shots. It can handle horde. It can handle the bigger stuff. It's so versatile. It's very good. Plus, it shoots in combat now. You get tied in that combat. It's extra shots. So
I when I got the book or when I saw the leaks, like all they really did for the Dread Knights is they just upped like every attribute except strength and toughness by 1. Right? Like it got one more wound, it got one more to its invul, it got one more to its movement, it got one more attack, it got one more strength on both of those ranged weapons, the silencer and the side cannon, and it just and it got one more AP on like everything, and that like just boosting everything by 1, effectively everything, not really, but like, and then the making the sword and the hammer like a real choice just brought them up to like just this amazing level. Yeah.
Old hammer was minimum 3 damage, and now the new hammer is D3+3. It's so much better. I am sad that the old Grandmasters used to cast 2, no 1, and the new Grandmaster no 2, cast 1. So I have to pay that extra command point if I want to throw a second power out all the time from a Grandmaster.
Yeah, I also. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna.
I do Vortex of Doom and the amplification on them. So there's key times where you have to pay the extra command point to the second power and throw out the amplification.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's probably what I do most. Like I spent a lot of CP on the 6 extra inches to cast, and then one more power is a pretty standard to CP sync, right? It's so good because they think they might be out of range or whatever, or you really need to get off that wombo combo with like the sword bear's power and empiric amplification, and that just melts pretty much anything you could possibly stick on the board. So
I'll actually throw an extra CP if I know I'm going to do double power. I'll pay the first CP to do channeling, so I get the 3d6 on both powers.
Good choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Rapiers detachment is another patrol. I do run Drago. I'm on the fence on Drago, but I do really think in the way my list is built, he's very good in it. But if you were going to run a heavier Rapier list, I would not run Drago. I would stick to a different style of characters.
Mm.
But with the way my not Rapier, interceptors. Since I don't have a lot of interceptors, I tend to lean more on Drago, and I'll tell you why in a bit. And then I have the one Grandmaster. He's my warlord. He rolls with Demon Hunter. And I like that extra attack on the charges he has when he gets 20 charges. So
Yeah.
It goes to 6 to 7 attacks, sweeping attack gets to 14 attacks. And then if I do the Rapiers thing, it's +1 attacks, that's 16 attacks. And then it helps out take out that horde. Yeah, it helps take out that horde for sure. If you have 16 attacks off that guy. The other thing I really like is there's a very good demon player in my area. I didn't have to fight him. His name's Brian Malpass. But if I had to fight him, I was really going to rely on that Demon Hunter to ignore his impulse and kind of win that game. But then, so I have Drago, one strike squad. I have 2 squads of interceptors in the Rapiers. One's a 6-man squad because I had 25 points left, so I just picked up one more Rapier on one of the squads. And then in elites, I have 1 apothecary with staff, and I have 10 purifiers. One squad of 10. And they are very key to my strategy. And then I have 1 Nemesis Dread Knight in that detachment that is also Rapiers. As far as psychic powers go, I spread over both the Grandmasters with the Vortex of Doom and the amplification, because both the powers are very good. Very, very key. You're not going to get them both in position in the same, like, all the time. But, having 2 on the board in 2 different parts of the field, you can get that one on like the right power on somebody that you want to get on. Drago runs Gate Infinity. He has my warp shaping. That was one of the other things. I had to get the warp shaping in there somehow, and since Drago knows that was the obvious choice. Yeah. Gate Infinity, warp shaping, and Sanctuary. And then I have the Apothecary has a gem for the +1 to cast 1 time only, and he has Gate Infinity as well.
I'm starting to see that a lot lately. Like Nanavati was running the same kind of thing. He had the gem on a character for those clutch gate plays. I mean, he said it came in handy like half of his games. You roll that 5, you make it a 7, gate actually goes off, and then you shunt. And you can just move around the map so fast. So cool.
Definitely. Mobility, Grey Knights have such a good mobility. Like you said, Nanavati with he was also running the like Mortal Wound Librarian. I think he's against it now that he played it, because he found that it wasn't, you had to put so many resources into it to get it to go off, but when it goes off big.
Man, I've been seeing folks either decide to drop it, which is like I've never played it either. I want to just to experience it, or I've seen folks like go in on it even harder, where they give them the Artificer armor too, and that way they live longer, hopefully, because now they have a big old feel no pain to everything, and they are ignoring AP1 effectively. Like, folks will even lean into it even more.
Yeah. Like, I talked to Nanavati about it some when we went to dinner. He said that he wouldn't use it. He's not in favor of it anymore. I believe he's going to take it out of his list. But he said that guy was just running around the board every game. Like, that's how every turn he's advancing, throwing out powers. He's just kind of running around the board doing his thing. But for him to really go off, you got to put so many resources into him. And then sometimes it fails, like when you try to put so many resources into him, and when it fails, it's so costly to your game.
I mean, if you
Yeah,
assume all the powers go off, you do a minimum of 8 mortal wounds, and you can do a maximum of
oh yeah,
what, 18 or something insane. But the
everything
powers
goes
have to
off.
go off. They
Yes,
can't get denied, right?
yeah.
Like that's the yeah, and you can't perils yourself into the ground either, because that can happen.
Look, it's high risk, high reward. If
Yeah,
you run it and everything goes off, you're gonna get a great payday. But at the same time, I'm more of a guy that in some matchups I don't feel like he's that good too. So I'm more of a guy that tends to look at unit. I don't like putting anything in my army that I'm not going to get used out of in a game. Like any matchup I get, things are in my army that I'm going to get used out of. I'm not going to take like situational items as much. I did take the Demon Hunter one, which is a little situational, but that +1 attack did come in handy a couple times in a couple games. So I'm not too feel bad about that one. But I tend to look at units and say, okay, I want use out of every part of these units all game long. And so far, I felt like the librarian is going to have games where he's not going to be very useful. So that is why I'm reluctant. Like I'm sure he's going to have great games, but I'm reluctant to put him in the list because there's going to
yeah,
be some matchups he's not, and I don't want to put so many resources into him and then have him hit those games, and then he's kind of like dead weight. So
yeah, man. I feel that.
another very key difference between my list, I think every Green Knight list that was at Crucible, I there was one guy that was running incinerators. Actually, I played him. Um, I run heavy on the special weapons.
I was just about to ask you that question because it is like, well, because the like silencers are free per strike
right.
squad, right? So
If you
like,
drop this, yeah,
and if you know they're going to be holding backfield objectives or whatever, like why not throw one in there? If you're not expecting them to be in melee, which is why you wouldn't take a heavy weapon, the silencer is actually like a Stormbolter plus, right? It's like an additional
yeah.
half of a Stormbolter in your squad, so it's not bad
I
at
take
all.
it honestly.
Yeah.
Like I have the silencer in every unit, all my little units, except for one strike squad that I run the incinerator on one, and I love the incinerators fluff wise. I feel like a real Grey Knight is really gonna be running incinerator.
Yeah, man.
Grey Knight, everyone in the incinerator, like anything comes to me, it's like and plus like the fluff with the incinerators. So I had to put one on my list because I love it. But everything else has silencers, and the purifiers I have the 4 silencers on.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Nanavati runs all weapons, and he feels that the Stormbolt is good enough. As far as like strategy with that, so I find that when I get into combat, a lot of times I'm down to like 4 guys left, 3 guys left in a 5-man squad. I don't have all 5 guys usually. Usually I've lost 1 or 2 before I hit the combat.
Mm-hmm.
Unless deep struck in and I'm charging, which I'm not doing as much. I'm not relying on that as much. The 9-inch charge is still tough.
Yeah.
Even with our celerity hitting on 2s or automatically getting 3s.
Yeah.
So I really like the silencer because I feel like, okay, so if I'm hitting combat with those units, I still got 2 or 3 guys, which is usually the case. 2 to 4 guys are up, and they're going to be swinging with their weapons anyways. But let's say I got a unit over in the corner, which happens a lot, and they're holding an objective. They're not getting shot at, or they're kind of doing something on the side, and they're not getting any attention from my opponent. When I'm in the shooting tide with the mortal wounds in combat, they're putting out shots from across the board the whole time. That
30 inches now.
Yeah. Like the Stormbolt guys are always moving, so they're only getting 2 shots across the board. And like those silencers, like over 5 turns on all those little units, they're kind of slowly, they're slowly adding up damage. Like they're slowly doing tick damage over the course of the game. So I do like the special weapons on the little squads, like just the one, and it almost always gets picked up first when I lose a model. I almost always pick up the special weapon first.
Yeah.
But a lot of games I'll have like 2 or 3 squads of special weapons still, and the whole time they're shooting the silencers, down the board. Like they're just shooting the silencers nonstop, and they take off those 1 or 2 last wounds sometimes, and it's so helpful. So I am in favor of the silencers, and in the purifier squad, I run the 4 silencers. and that's
Do you
having
combat
the
squad them into like a little purgation squad? You always leave as a like 10-man brick.
always squad. Yeah,
Cool.
you want me to talk about that? I can talk about
Yeah,
it.
man.
So
Please, so this is one of the ways that your list is completely different from most meta lists, which is just as many Dread Knights and Interceptors
Intercept.
as possible, right? So seeing an apothecary and the purifiers on top of how well you did made me really want to talk to you. So
And
please.
there's and with I had some other players come up to I had another player come up to me during the event and say, I don't understand why you have the apothecary, like another Grey Knight player. Can you talk about it with me? So I said that I tell them, say, I understand the tech marine is great. You can repair the dread knights, and I got 5 dread knights, so like that is great. But I find a lot of times those dread knights aren't around the the tech marine, and I don't have not in the range to do it. So the way I play the way I so the dread the way I play the purifier squad, which I really is kind of like my key to my strategy, is that is my set. Board control is like one of the biggest things in 9th edition. You have to board control so big. If you have board control, you control the flow of the game. And the Dread Knights usually they're like my hammers. They're pushing up and they're hitting hard. They're getting hit hard. They're taking damage. They're putting out damage. People expose units to try to take a couple of them down, and then I can hammer back with the rest of the Dread Knights and take them down. The Purifiers are like the backbone of the army. They do like all the heavy lifting with points. They always get placed down, kind of like forwardly aggressive, behind terrain. I try to keep them safe. The Apothecary is right behind them, and Caldor Drago is right there with them. And they almost always push up center board, especially if there's a center objective, and really push people back. So people have a choice. They either shoot the purifiers, or they shoot the Dread Knights. And usually the Dread Knights are usually in people's faces, like right away.
Yeah.
So they shoot the Dread Knights, and the Purifiers just sit there scoring points. And then having the 6+ feel no pain on the Purifiers with 2 wounds, having access to the only wound on 4s, it's very costly, but sometimes it's worth it, depending on what you're playing. And the -1 damage, that is like the clinch, untainted and unbowed.
Yeah. That's such a great strategy, or great stratagem.
Yeah, with rocket trucks being so prevalent and being damaged too, that just picks up Marines. But if they shoot a purifier squad, when the rocket trucks shoot the 10 purifier squad, they usually don't go down. They just don't go down because I put Dragos casting Sanctuary on them every turn. So there's 4+ invul. I re-roll it often. I often re-roll that 4+ to get that 4+ invul on them because I'm always putting them in aggressively forward. Like they are coming forward to hold that army in place and hold those objectives in the middle.
So just so for everybody listening, and myself actually, so right now you are stacking them with a 4+ invul. They're 2 wounds, -1 damage. You got a 6+ feel no pain. And then I assume they're gonna get Drago. No, yeah, they're also gonna get Drago rerolls a lot of the time.
Yeah, usually first 2 turns I put the Drago rerolls on Dread Knights.
Okay.
But then once the Purifiers get into the position, like every game I kind of decide where the Purifiers are gonna go, and that's where I kind of deploy them, kind of by that area. I never really gate them because like they gotta stay around the Apothecary and they gotta stay around Drago to get value.
Yeah.
Once they kind of go there, like they just walk up the board, and once they're in position, Drago's gonna cast. He's gonna put that reroll on them every time, and they're gonna put out their shots every turn, and they're gonna hold those points. And if somebody charges them in combat, they don't usually kill the whole squad. I got like 4 or 5 purifiers with weapons left, close combat weapons, because I'll pull the guns first if they get hit in combat. They'll swing in, and then next turn Drago's gonna charge in there and
wipe them.
Jago's so good in combat. Yeah, he's so good.
He's such a beat stick. And then, I mean, you also have, even if there's something left, like the next turn, you can hopefully purifying flame them out of combat. Like
purifying
just poof.
Flame is.
Yeah.
Purifying. I really consider running Crow just for the purifying flame, but he's like on the fence for me too. But he's leaning towards the other way, where I'm not going to take him. Drago's on the fence for me. He's pushing forward with my list well, so I'm going to keep using him, and I think he's very good. But that Purifying Flame is great. It's one of the best powers I find on those in the books. I got to run at least one of those, I feel like. And those Purifiers do it so well. Also, bring Apothecary's bringing a guy back. That it's so helpful.
Do you feel like you get value when you bring back one Purifier for 1 CP? Yeah?
Absolutely. I'll bring back... People try to shoot those Purifiers, and if they're really trying to pull resources into them, I can just pull my resources into them, and they become even harder to take away.
Yeah.
So either people usually ignore them and go for the Dread Knights, or they go for the Purifiers, and then the Dread Knights kind of clean house.
So turns 1 and 2, are you in Tide of Shadows to like make them even stickier and harder to kill, right?
Yeah, I'll do Tide of Shadows turn 1 and 2. When I played the Orc player, I did do that for the first few turns.
No doubt.
Yeah. Tide of Shadows, like even like I said, like the Purifiers, and even when like first turn, if I can get like if somebody plays aggressive against me, I can walk out and put amplification on them, and I'll put rerolls on the Purifier squad. That's 24 rerolling silencer shots that do damage too. It really does. Like it does more damage than Dread Knight sometimes.
Yeah, I believe it. That is just so many shots. Even though it's no AP and low strength, it's still just one. Is it 1 for the handheld ones now too?
No.
So you can tell how much I actually run them because I'm not even sure what their profile is right now.
Unless I'm thinking about it wrong. Sorry, it's been like a week since I played because I've been working crazy for me.
It's all good.
Yeah, it should be AP1. I can get my book and double check. But yeah, it should be AP1. So
I know the heavy ones are AP1. But yeah, anyway.
I like the psych hands, but for 3 shots, paying the extra points, it's kind of costly. I don't run it.
Yeah.
But like chip damage is so big nowadays. So many things are running with 4-up armor. I talked to Nick. Nick said like so many games rest on you making did you make those 4+ symbols that one turn or did you not? Having that AP2 or AP1, lots of shots and slowly bringing a unit down over the course of a couple turns. It's a lot better, I find, than having like 4 las cannons shoot something and then hope that I hope he fails like a bunch of these and then roll a bunch of damage. Like having that, like, okay, I'll take a few wounds, it dies, seems like a better strategy for me.
Yeah, I mean, just
coupled with smites.
Yeah, just drown them in saves, right? Like even if they have 2-ups or 3-ups in a cover or whatever, if you got to make 20 saves, you know, you're gonna fail.
Everybody can roll 6 dice and pass like 5 of them or 4 of them on 4-ups, so I can get lucky. But when you roll 20 saves, like you're gonna fail like a good handful.
Yeah, absolutely. So you even run the silencer, and I know we're like beating this topic into the ground, but it's one of the things that stands out in the list. You're even running them on the interceptors, and like.
Oh yeah, I do. Like I said, I find that a lot of games the interceptors will fly forward behind the wall somewhere safe, and they'll walk out, try to hold an objective, and they'll put their shots off all game. And sometimes I'll get like just multiple turns of that silencer shot going down board and hitting something with 6 shots. It really adds up over the time. I mean, you think about like all my units are always moving every turn, I find. So 2 shots versus 6 shots, over, if I have 3 silencers shooting over 3 turns, so that's 6, 12, 18. 18 times 3 is 36, 44. That's 54 shots going from silencers over 3 silencers for 3 turns. Versus if I was doing moving stormbolters, that'd be 18 shots.
Yeah.
So is my math right on that? I think it is 6.
It's probably close enough.
Yeah. It never hurts to roll more dice to someone, and those silencers over time they do that. They really do.
That's cool. I
get those games where they get all removed right away, but I also get those games where they're shooting the entire time.
I just always
Yeah.
think of my interceptors as like, yeah, I want to get up, I want to toe in on like an objective, I want to cast purifying ritual, and then I want to charge and wreck
See,
whatever is on
that's
that
kind of
objective.
saying the Nick strategy. Nick was saying he trades the units, he runs the interceptors, and he trades with the interceptors. I really tend to try to reserve, like hold back my units and not trade. I try to, especially with the Dread Knights, like I try to pick off anything threatening I see with shooting, so that like usually almost every game I play, halfway through the game, it's a close game, but turn four and turn five, um, I can kind of like hopefully have taken out most of the threats that kill those Dread Knights or kill that big squad of Purifiers, like all those big weapons that just destroy the Dread Knights or whatnot. And I forgot where we're going with this, but like turn four and turn five. Now, like I have a lot of my units left there just scoring, and he doesn't have the units to kind of deal with the Dread Knights. And I
Yeah.
think that's a meta thing right now. Seeing some of the different armies out there. I guess we could talk about in the matchups. When we talk about the matchups, but like being able to kill the threat, kind of like when you play Imperial Knights. When you play Imperial Knights, you normally go for those las cannon units and those other units that are just gonna just take you down. And then once those are gone, usually the lights can clean up. Same thing with the Dread Knights. If you're able to take out those anti-tank weapons and whatnot right away, like in the first 3 turns, the last 2 turns are going to, like, even if you're losing by a little bit the first 3 turns, you'll be winning by so much in the last 2 turns, and you play the whole 5 turns, kind of like what Siegler says, you play the whole 5 turns.
Yeah.
You can win the game in the end.
So with that in mind, with that whole statement, which is fantastic. So when you built this list, what were the secondaries you were thinking about when you built this list? Like obviously purifying ritual against anything that's a non-psychic army. Like I wouldn't take purifying. You would take it against like Thousand Suns?
All Grey Knight planes, all my play Thousand Suns. I take it. Being able to. So if the other guy has psychers, especially a lot of psychers, being able to get him to throw out denies, like, is so good. Like to throw out powers, and hey, I rolled a 6 on this ritual. Hey, they're gonna try to deny that. That's one less. That's one more deny they don't have.
Yeah.
So, like, being able to just like I have big powers and I'm usually saving, so they kind of like baits.
I got you. Okay, I see now.
Bait, trying to get you to block it and throw your deny out. And here's another bait. Here's another bait, and people take it almost every time. I probably would too, because that's points. Like the other guy gets points.
Exactly.
I get points if these go off, right?
And the rolling,
can't, like, deny those points.
Yeah,
what's
like
that?
Oh, just the fact that it increases as you cast it more, right? So denying 1 point, not a big deal. But if you're on that, like, if you're facing a Grey Knight player and that Grey Knight player has Stranglehold and they're on 3 and they're trying to cast that third, which is worth 2 points more than the previous 2 casts for 4 total points, you're going to be like, shit, I have to do something. So that's like, a great point where you're just using it to bait out those denies.
Or like, let's say I do forward units doing it. I'll probably save the back one to do it last, because I want them to not block Vortex. I want them to not block Amplification. So I'll throw the Purifyings first and save the third one for the 4 points last, because they know them. They see, oh, that one in the back I can't deny, so that's going to be his 4 points. So they'll try to throw on those early ones too. The more denies that you can get people to use, the better. So I know one of the Grey Knight players didn't take it against me, and I talked about it with him afterwards. I'm not sure if he's going to do it or not. He's very good as John Moore, but I think I kind of convinced him. Like, the more that I get you to throw your denies, the easier it is for me to throw the powers that are going to change the game in my turn.
Yeah. Especially if they only have 1 or 2 psychers, right? Like a lot of Space Marine lists run like 1 librarian. And so if you can bait out those denies early,
Yes.
then you're like, great, I own the rest of this whole psychic phase, which is
I can't tell you how
pretty
many
sweet.
times I roll. I can't tell you how many times I roll a 5, and people will roll against them. People will try to deny a 5 all day because
Yeah.
I would too. I mean, it's a 5. I get another point if I get this 5 off, so it's a 5. It's a good chance to deny a point. I don't think it's the wrong call, but it's just a good thing to do. I know a lot of Grey Knight players run to the last. I never take it. My purifiers are like key to victory, and they have to go into the fight every game. They have to be right there, taking the blunt of damage, taking combats. They're right there with Drago and the
Yeah.
apothecary, but I
Your
lose. What's that?
Oh, I was just actually looking at your list. So in your list, your to the last would be your 2 grandmasters and your purifiers, and those are like your clutch ass units. You don't want them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those fight in my list. If they're not in the game, I'm gonna lose the game. So I never take to the last. I I really try hard to never take an action secondary. All the shadow operations. If you're doing shadow operations, it's really hard to get shadow operations and purifying ritual off. You have to have multiple units like doing for actions, and
Hmm.
that takes you out of the game. Like those units aren't in the game as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like if I do like raise the banners, not raise the banners or retrieve Octarius data, then I can't do my purifying ritual, and it's usually detrimental. So I almost always take grind them down and go for kill more.
Hmm.
You can usually get 12 points out of it, 9 points out of it. I rarely ever get 6 because I usually in the first 2 turns I'll get it like once, and the last 2 turns I'll usually get both of them. So the middle turn, that's hit or miss. Um, And then as far as the third secondary, that one's really up in the air. I almost always say grind. I almost always say purifying ritual. The third secondary, it really depends on the matchup and the
Yeah.
mission.
And the mission, like
Um,
if it's priority targets, you're gonna take priority targets. But let's get into those matchups. So if my notes are correct, you started this tournament going right up against the mirror match, Grey
yeah,
Knights,
the Grey Knight matchup.
and this guy was running a Rapiers battalion. Just,
Yeah. I was worried about that one. Last time, so I'm usually the Grey Knight guy in the area, and last times I fought Grey Knights was like 3 years ago in the tournament. And it wasn't obviously it wasn't the new book. So my experience fighting Grey Knights with Grey Knights is very low. I had like hunches on how to fight it that were pretty accurate, but like I was worried about it. To be honest with you, because I was like, oh man, I haven't fought this matchup yet, and it's so weird. I think my saving grace was since I've been playing the Grey Knights for so long, even the experience with the old edition, and taking it to the especially taking it to the U.S. Open and stuff like that with how I used to run it. Um, the guy I played, he was playing Imperial Knights before. He just kind of switched over to Grey Knights, so I kind of had a lot more like I've been running the Dread Knights for a long time, so I kind of a lot more experience with how the Dread Knights would do and how different things would like work out with psychic powers and the psychic phase. So I think that played to my advantage a whole lot. He deployed KG kind of in the back of his board. I deployed kind of the same way. I believe I got first turn. Um, he, so I brought up a Dread Knight because I believe I had line of sight on 2 Dread Knights. It might have been first turn, but it was early on. And one of them was the shunting one. So I went ahead and shot him to tick that because I wanted that to, having him not to have that option later on. Because I find that when people don't shoot the guy early on, and later on, if they try to shoot the guy and I get to shunt, it's so powerful going over to somewhere side of the board where he can just really control, like, towards the end of the game an area. So I went ahead and shot that first. He shunted over to the other side. And then I put Drago had buffed, I believe, the purifiers, and I was in the +1, +6 inch range. I put all my Dread Knight shots kind of like towards into one Dread Knight. and the purifier shots, and I was able to pick one up almost right away. I think I gated over a Dread Knight, I believe, and I threw out amplification.
Did you go first or second?
I believe I went first. Yeah, I believe I
Okay.
went first. Did I gate over a Dread Knight? No, it was sorry, it was last week. I believe what happened was, so I took a shot off first with one of my Dread Knights into his shunting one. He shunted over to the other side of the board, but I had already amplified the one. Amplified it because I was thinking, okay, I'll get him to, I'll amplify it. That way he will shunt because he does not want to take all those side weapon shots on the amplified Grandmaster. So I amplified it. And another thing is Dread Knights on Dread Knights. Dread Knights kill Dread Knights really well. every side cannons, like you put enough heavy side cannon shots into a Dread Knight, you're not going to kill like two, but you can pretty reliably kill one a turn.
And especially if you can keep up where like you have one more than they do.
Yes.
Right? Then you can that attrition starts to really snowball.
Yeah.
You know, because if you have two up at the end of the game and he has none, that's huge.
I started with 4, and he had 2 Dread Knights kind of aggressively placed at the beginning. So I was able to take one after he shunted the one. I kind of focus fire another one, and I was able to drop it. So then on his turn, he kind of came out more aggressively against me. And when it comes to like, if you expose all your Dread Knights first, I find that it's not as good because if the other guy's hidden, because I was hidden well from where he placed some of his Dread Knights, and if he can't, if you can be the first one to shoot the other person's Dread Knights and kind of like tip the scales in your side, as in like you're doing damage to theirs before they're doing damage to yours. Theirs are probably going to die first, and you're going to have some left at the end with some wounds to kind of clean up the rest of the board. And that's kind of what happened. He kind of played, I remember turn 2, he played more aggressively with his, and then I brought like all of my Dread Knights out behind it from behind the obscuring, and I was shooting him a lot more because he was bringing them out and just shooting my infantry and my purifiers, and they were kind of taking it. And I think even my strike squad, I haven't had it exposed, but like the strike squads, they were still holding up all right in cover against the Dread Knight shots, and then I kept walking out. Always use Psychic Onslaught on one of the Grandmasters. It's such a great strategy from one command point. Get those, get those
+1 strength, +1 AP, especially. Yeah.
Especially on the Guiding Silencer, when you're wounding on 4s instead of 5s, and now you're taking them to their 4+ save instead of their 3+ armor save. That if you have amplification on, it really ticks up the damage from the Guiding. So he kind of exposed his Dread Knights kind of earlier on, and then I all my Dread Knights kind of came out and just shot. That goes into another segue with the way I feel like Grey Knights are now. They're gonna have a decent psychic phase, but I don't think the psychic phase is where all their damage is really like the best.
No.
They're gonna have a good combat phase and they're gonna kill a lot of stuff, but I don't think it's also. I also don't think it's like what you want to rely on. The shooting in now has become the what I kind of like lean on towards my army. Like I try to rely on holding up the good positions, moving my purifiers up into a good spot, and then rely on the shooting and have them once they start coming to me, they're gonna have to weather those shots. And I think that's kind of what he did. He started shunting out his interceptors once he started losing his Dread Knights, and I was kind of holding my space. And he was shooting and doing damage to me and psychicking me, but we were both our psychic phases weren't very good. He was denying me, I was denying him.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes, you know. I was lucky enough to expose my Dread Knight second, so I was picking up his Dread Knights. Then when he brought out his interceptors, I was then picking off the interceptors as fast as I could before they could get close to me, because interceptors in combat, as you know, are very good.
Yeah, very.
And it kind of became the game was kind of over, like, I think turn 3, which is kind of like an ongoing thing with all my games. After turn 3, like, I play that kind of defensive style and try to go for those units that are threatening. And then once that happens, like turn 4 and turn 5, that's where I kind of score out my points. Because if you could score like 5 points, 10 points, 10 points the first 3 turns, you score like 25 points. Even if the other guy's scoring 15, 15, 15, he's only maxing out at 45. And then if you score like a 15 on your 4th turn or 5th turn, and you score, even if you score 5, 5, 10, and you score 15, then you're looking at 40. So you only have to, right? So 40, so 15, 25, 35. So you only have to score 10. Like, as long as you keep scoring primary points without exposing too much stuff. And he was going out there to try to hold stuff and try to threaten my position, and I was trying to like hold my space, and just shoot him with all my silencers, and even on my infantry, all my silencers. It just kind of like worked out in my favor. He was trying to push forward with the interceptors and charge me, and I kind of just weathered out with shots.
Yeah,
the combat wasn't as much of a thing in this game.
It looks like you got a perfect game this game too.
Yeah,
you scored 100 points against this guy.
So yeah, I scored out the last 2 turns. He didn't have that many denies left, so I was able to clear that out. With me playing defensive, I was able to get the grind him down every time. And then I believe since he started, I think that was a mission where it was if you lose 75% of your army or under, if you have left.
Yeah, that's such points. Is that one? Which did you take that one or did he? I'm sorry.
Don't take that secondary.
No,
it's amazing. I find it very good.
Oh man.
So I have, I believe, 12 units in my army. If I lose 6 units and I'm down to 6 units, I'm still getting 10 points. I believe. Okay. You have to take them under 50%. I believe is how it works. I know a lot of people think that secondary is not very good. But I find that mission very, very well, very good. I was able to, I scored 15 against him because he wasn't able to kill that many units. A lot of times I'll be down to 1 or 2 guys, and they'll have to go run and hide because I don't want to lose that last guy.
Yeah.
I want to score the points.
It's always that like last living interceptor that like continually scores you like Purifying Ritual 2 or Engage on All Fronts or whatever, and it's like your opponent doesn't want to spend a whole unit to go kill it, but you want to do everything you can to keep it alive anyway because it's just making you points.
Or just like even hide it, even when on that one, like just hide it, because I find that mission very good, that secondary. Yeah, because like I have to lose 4 units, 12, so I think it's 4 units to get down to the 10, and I think I only lost like 2. A lot of people, so like, yeah, if you just play like the way it fits my play style. Like I know Nick, like let's say there's a piece of terrain, right? Nick will take his interceptors and put like 1, 2, hold the objective, and then wheel the rest behind it. That way, when they get shot, he drops the first 2 off the front, and then he's got the rest behind the terrain, and then he can. So they got to bring units out and kind of wipe the unit, and then all these units are exposed, and then Nick goes out and he kills those units. So he plays the trading game. I play more the I'm going to hold up in terrain game, and I'm going to hold up in my positions and keep shooting game, and then stay around my purifiers, around my buffing guys, and kind of hold my area. So then you have to come to me. I don't really come to you. So the way I play, I don't really take like heavy, like I don't throw units out to go die that much. I take less damage like every turn. I feel like I don't play the trading game, so I don't lose that much. So I find that way I play that really, that mission, that secondary does well for me.
That's completely fair. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but like, yeah, I'm still very new to this game, so picking secondaries is
it's well noted from a lot of my friends. I play a lot differently than a lot of people.
That's fair, man. It's clearly working.
Yeah, I mean, it did very well for me. But like you said, I didn't have to play any of the Outer War guides, which is very, very lucky pairings. Yeah.
Well, even so, I mean, hey man, if you're coming in like top 50% at a GT with this many high caliber players, like you're not a
Yeah.
slouch. You're not an idiot. So the fact that you took first is fantastic. Um so game
I get,
2, oh, yeah. What were
well,
you
I can
going to
talk a
say?
little bit. That was interesting. I forgot to talk about the meta. Did you want me to like touch on that a little bit too?
Sure, go ahead.
When
Yeah.
I talk Great. So I know Harpster actually talked about this with Lennon. Um, as far as Grey Knights in the current edition go, I feel like they're a strong army. I don't feel like they're broken. But what's really feeding towards their positives is the meta. So a lot of people have been adjusting for Dark Eldar, and a lot of people
And
have
AdMech.
adjusted for AdMech. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. um, and because they're adjusting for those like heavier infantry armies, um, Grey Knights kind of like they can kind of like there's not as many anti-tank weapons and stuff. So there's not people spamming so many multas because they have to worry about which squads charging them and stuff like that, and killing tons of different units that from AdMech, like tons of different infantry that have good armor saves. So they're taking more like high volume of shooting. Um, so I find that like I said before, if in the current meta, when you run the 5 Dread Knights, you might lose 2 or 3 Dread Knights, but as long as you, by the time you've lost those Dread Knights, you've killed their Meltas, you've killed their las cannons, you're able to then push in like kind of, you're kind of unstoppable at turn 4 and turn 5 because you have units that are just going to hold what they're going to hold and do what they're going to do, and they don't have the resources anymore because they've spec'd towards the meta. Um, and also Orks. Grey Knights play pretty well in the Orks now too, and those are like the 3 armies I feel like are very good. Orks right now, or
That Freebooterz list, which we will get into on your third round, was is
insane.
that's a wombo combo for sure. So
Yes, but like because of the way the meta is, it's a strong army in a meta that's kind of built to fight. Grey Knights are very strong. I find.
yeah, I think we're sitting pretty at a nice little 55% win rate right now, according to Goonhammer, which is right in that like healthy threshold. Um, I wonder what happens. So the big point changes and facts are like December and November, right? So potentially AdMech and Drukhari and Orks might see some nerfs, and I wonder if they get nerfed, if our win rate might skyrocket, and now we're gonna get nerfed. You know what I mean?
I
It's a
think
constant shift.
yeah, I think some kind of nerf might happen. I'm not too sure what it is. Maybe losing some core and some points, but I think that I remember when they nerfed the Dark Eldar, everybody was complaining about it, and it wasn't enough. I don't know. Were you around when they did that?
Oh yeah, I've been playing all through ninth, so I
Yeah.
fought eighth.
You remember when they came out and then got the nerf, and everybody was like, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, and then I mean they nerfed AdMech too, like took core from the laser chickens, but then AdMech just shifted. Like now they're using the Stratocopters and stuff, which are just oppressive apparently. I've never actually played against that list, so I can't speak from experience, but um,
the
pretty pretty good.
Yeah, the I think once the Black Templar come out and some of the other armies, like Sisters, become more prevalent, they're gonna really do a hurting job on, and especially AdMech too, hurting job on Grey Knights. So I don't I feel like GW realizes that too, which is why they didn't like nerf Dark Eldar that much because they knew Grey Knights were gonna come out and really do a good job against them. So I'm not as worried about the nerfs because I can't really I can't really do anything but worry, so I'm not gonna worry.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into round two then with Salamanders. Is this an army you see much anymore? I know Space Marines are still like 25% of the meta, but I don't see Salamanders really. I mean, they were killing it at the beginning of ninth.
Yeah. I think they're a good army. I don't think they're the, like if I was to scale a S, A, B scale, I think they're like a B plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Grey Knights would be like that A area, somewhere in there, maybe A plus. But like you don't see him that often anymore. He did have a lot of Meltas in his list,
Sounds like
which
Salamanders.
really, yeah. I mean, I lost. I think in the first 2 turns, I lost 3 Dread Knights, and I was shocked because I usually only lose like 2 in the first 2 turns. And he killed a lot, very fast with the drop pod multi meltas that he was running. And then even the squads, like he was charging my infantry with 5-man veteran squads with chainswords, which are 21 attacks on the charge, and they were doing a lot of damage to my
Yeah, there's a lot of. I play Death Watch as well, and there's a lot of that where it's like, well, I'll just take some cheap Death Watch veterans with chainswords and just drown you in saves. It's the same thing as like Stormbolters, right? It's just massive, low strength, constant. Yeah,
we talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like, same thing there. Like, I was able to. I immediately target all the Meltas. Priority number 1. All the Meltas had to go. They came in, they did their damage, they picked up Dread Knights.
Wow, he had a really interesting list. So he had 2 Rhinos with Hunter Killers. He had the drop pod with the Devastator squad in it. The Sergeant had a Combi Melta even in that Devastator squad. He had a Land Raider Redeemer also with a Hunter Killer Missile and also with a multi-melta, lots of flame aggressors, tons of flamers on like company veterans.
He had maxed out flamers.
Yeah, he had a lot of special weapons. This is kind of neat.
Every vehicle he had a 100 killer missile. I mean, it was kind of goes back to like I was pushing center, I targeted his meltas, and then as soon as I killed all the heavier weapons, it was still a close game towards the end, but I was still scoring points. And once like turn 4, turn 5 again, like after I killed the heavy weapons, like the Dread Knights were kind of just cleaning up the veterans. The Land Raider was surprisingly tough for me to kill because I wasn't rolling well against it, but I was doing a lot of smites and stuff, which was really helping. Anytime something goes awry, you can always go for that smite turn and be like, I gotta get some mortal wounds out. But sure. Yeah, I think I even charging that Land Raider, that was scary because like I didn't kill it in the turn. I charged it with the Dread Knight 1 turn, and I didn't kill it, and it shot me back with the flamers on it, and it did a lot of damage. And I was, like I said, I lost 3 Dread Knights almost immediately. And I think I had to bank down on 1 towards the end of the game, and it was just kind of holding that side, and my purifiers were kind of holding the other side. And I killed out so much of the center, he was kind of like backed off to the back. But yeah, it was Salamanders Meltas hurt. And Salamander Flamers, they could do a lot of damage. I mean, he was a good player. He kind of knew how to run his army with the Meltas, with the Salamander rules and Salamander stratagems. But like going back again, I know I keep saying this, but like once all of those units that really hurt the like when I had the 2 Dread Knights left, like I think I cleared out all of his like really hard hitting stuff. So I was able to kind of clean up, and then like I was able to just hold the board with the purifiers. So
that's awesome. Those purifiers were ultra clutch that game, huh?
Yeah, the purifiers, they pushed up center. The Dread Knights, they kind of flanked and just kind of got destroyed. And then, and then I kept throwing out smites into the Land Raider and combat the Land Raider. That game was, I was worried turn 2 when when I lost a lot of stuff on those meltas, but and he had the 1 unkillable captain come out, and He really did a lot of damage to me from the Land Raider. He actually had it in the Land Raider as a Terminator. And then I remember bringing over my Grandmaster. I think it was with Gate because I had to vortex him to get him because he's so tough.
Yeah.
Salamander Captain so tough to kill with all their buffs. Um, the mortal wounds really helped. So I specifically brought over Grandmaster, I believe, to deal with that guy with Vortex of Doom and Smite. I think I had to do a Vortex and then do a Smite, and the mortal wounds ticked off and dropped them. So then I was able to just push in after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So a little off Melta interesting list there. Kind of a tilt list, it looks like, against a lot of these other lists, just because all the Meltas are just, and combi Meltas and stuff, just nuts. I want to get into round 3 now against the Orcs. So the Freebooters are kind of, if you saw last weekend at what the SoCal Open when the Freebooters list tabled Sean Naden turn 1, that, and he didn't even go first, but Sean Naden scored 0 points.
What was David running?
So that Freebooters list wasn't even the Scrapjet or the Squig Buggy spam, but it was a very strong Freebooters list with that like rolling +1, But this one that you played against was
that was Tim Penny.
6 Squig Buggies, so not Squig Buggy spam, but it is a lot of Squig Buggies. Then 2 Daka Jets and 2 of the Wazbom Blastajets. So the Wazbom are known as basically aerial laser chickens. They've got assault D6 shots, D3+3, las cannons basically. They get the -1 AP with Speedwa, so they're at -3, I believe, in Speedwa. Might be -4. I think it's 3.
I think it's -3. Yeah,
and then you've got those Daka Jets with just the insane amount, 42 shots each, I think it is, when in Speedwa as well, and it's just like so much. So how do you deploy mostly in space in Deep Strike for this kind of thing, or?
So I was, we were out to dinner the night before. It was like 20 of us. Tim Penny was there, and they put the bearings up. And Penny just like stared at me, and he was like, and I was like, oh man, my heart sunk. I looked at his list. He has buckets of dice. Like he's rolling so many dice with +1 to hit. It becomes insane. And even like all the scrap jets that he was running are all damage 3. Like that just eats Dread Knights a lot of times.
Yeah.
I think he was running 6 scrap jets, and then the rocket trucks all damage 2, ignoring line of sight, just peel away infantry so fast. I did not think I was going to win that game going into turn 3.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I thought I had to go first. I thought that was the only way I can do it. I have foretelling of Locust, so I knew I had to redeploy. So going into that game, he deployed like I thought. He put the rocket trucks in the back, scrap jets, and the jet, all the planes kind of towards the back. The scrap jets. He was going to lead with the planes, push up with the scrap jets, do their shooting. The scrap jets are the damage 3 buggies, and have the rocket trucks constantly shooting. I knew it was going to be really bad if I did not go first, and I did not go first.
Oh no.
Yeah, I rolled that roll, and I was like, all right, I have to take this. So the Freebooters thing with the +1 to hit is so key to that army, especially when he does the speed walk, get the +1 AP, get the +1 to hit. I remember the only thing I deployed was 5 Dread Knights, and then Drago, they both carry. Everything else went into Deep Strike.
Yeah.
And I did that because I didn't want the rocket trucks to pick off like an easy. Sorry, got it. There. I didn't want the rocket truck to pick off like an easy 5-man squad and just get that +1 AP against all
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I'm glad I did because I did not go first. So,
So,
he speeds up first turn. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, just real quick for people listening, the way that clan culture works for freebooters is if they kill something, one unit with any freebooters unit, the rest of the army gets a +1 to hit for the rest of that phase. So
For all
what? Hmm?
Yeah, for all freebooters, yeah.
Yeah. So all the freebooters. So the idea is if you can pick off 1 or 2 easy units at the very beginning, like say a 5-man squad of strike marines, who aren't in cover or whatever, you give your whole army more or less the +1 to hit, and it stacks. So if you're say in Tide of Shadows and you're betting on that -1 to be hit, if they've killed something else, now they're not, and then if they kill another thing, now they're actually +1 to hit you. So it's this rolling horrible stacking. And then some of these things like the Wazbom start at like ballistic skill 4, which is not very orky, so they can get up to, to hitting you on 3s, and with all those like drowning you in shots, it's pretty oppressive. But
it's exactly those lists go for tabling somebody. That's it. Pity said that too. He said he wrote the list not to play the objectives, but to table people as fast as he could. And
what a hero!
Like it rolls so many dice at you, and with so many like stacking buffs, that it's just going to remove anything that deploys. You have to be very careful when you deploy against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I brought
remember,
up the deployment,
yeah.
is how cagey you have to be.
Yes. Very cagey. Well, so actually what I did was I put down the 3 Dread Knights aggressively because I was hoping to get first turn, move up, and start shooting the planes. When I did not get first turn, I pulled them all back behind the obscuring. I already had the Purifiers and characters behind obscuring, and I had the Dread Knights backed off too. He did the speed wall, flew the planes up, moved all the rocket trucks towards the middle, like holding the middle objectives. Not the rocket trucks, the scrap jets. And then he proceeded to shoot me. Now he started shooting with the rocket trucks, I believe, because he believed that he saw the 10 purifiers on the board, and I guess he figured that he could just pick those up right away. Because once he picks those, because he's got Dread Knights to shoot, which rocket trucks only strength 5. They don't do that well against the toughness 6 of the Dread Knights.
Right.
But when he shoots the purifiers, I did the -1 damage, and I had the feel no pain, and I believe I did the only wound on 4s. So his rocket trucks were not doing that much damage against the purifiers, especially which I was in shadows and the rocket trucks were in the back. I was getting the -1. He hasn't been able to proc off his +1 to hit, so he wasn't able to proc off his +1 to hit on any of the units with the rocket trucks or the scrap jets because I was hidden. So then he started shooting his planes, and he decided to just shoot into the Dread Knights. He did pick up a Grandmaster right away, the one that can't jump around. But it was okay. I felt like, okay, like I lost one, but all that shooting into him, I'm going to lose. I'm glad I just lost one.
Yeah. You got off easy.
Yeah, I got off easy. I got off very easy. He didn't roll specifically that well. I remember failing some 4-ups, and I re-rolled one that made it. I passed it, so I rolled all right on these saves there. And then my turn happened, and I have to target prioritize a Wazbom Blastajets. Those are absolutely the most dangerous things.
Yeah.
For like my army.
And they're -1 to hit all the time from the smoke launcher thing, right? Oh no, they have a 5-up invul from the smoke launcher thing. That's right.
they have the -1 to hit normally from the fling and the flyer, and yeah.
Woo.
So I gated over in front of him with my jumping guy, hoping that he would shoot him and I could jump away because he was also my objective security person.
Mm.
And I proceeded to shoot everything I had into the and psychic everything I had into the Wazbom, the Blastajets. Like I moved specifically so my powers would go on one of them, and I made sure everybody had like line of sight on the other one, and I was able to drop I think both of them right away.
That's good.
Yeah. So then I'm still in the corner of my board, and he has had the jets moved up. Scrap jets are in the middle. My Dread Knight now, instead of the corner, is towards the center. So then he went on turn 2. He kind of flew the scrap jets over, or the docket jets, and just kept shooting me on the side. But I hadn't brought my infantry in yet, so he still wasn't able to proc the +1 to hit because all my little infantry squads are still in reserve because he went first. And then he didn't shoot my guy that can jump away. He shot everything into my other Dread Knights, but I had positioned it in a way that the scrap jets couldn't get many good shots on me. And then he proceeded to charge my Grandmaster. So my Grandmaster, I had to pop the 3+ symbol on him one time only because of all the combat that went into him. But he was able to live, and that was huge because he has the OBSEC aura. So he held my second objective in the middle and prevented him from holding it. And his combat was very good. That was probably the game right there. That Dread Knight living with the 3+ symbols. I believe he charged his rocket truck, his force field guy, the I forgot what they're called, the custom shield guy.
Yeah, big mech with custom force field, I think. But
that's it. He charged like a lot of stuff into that guy. And I was able to tank it with the 3+. I think I was down to 4 wounds or 3 wounds. I made a clutch reroll that made him live. He forgot to pop his mortal wound thing, stratagem that really would have helped him. And then I swung back. I started to do some damage to his vehicles, but then on my turn, I shot and psychicked with that guy. It did more damage, and then he died. But by that time, his turn already went. He didn't kill that Dread Knight in the backfield, and he didn't kill my other backfield Dread Knights. He wounded them, but he didn't kill them. So he already had his scrap jets towards the center, and he only had the 1 docket jet left on my turn 2. And he had the rocket trucks in the back, and some of them were getting hit by the Dread Knight. So I brought in my reserves. I brought in the deep strikes off the back of board to kind of kill off his Gretchen holding his backfield objective.
Which are his only troops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only had 1 squad of Gretchen. And then I brought in the 2 squads of strike squads to kind of go for some scratch jets on the other side that were holding one of his objectives. And I brought in 1 squad on an objective he kind of was leaving alone because it was kind of far off in the corner, and I was trying to hold it without him seeing it. And then the other Dread Knights came out. They came out. I did a lot of damage in the shooting phase. Turn 1, the Wazbom Blastajets. Turn 2, I have to kill the scrap jets, and I targeted the scrap jets. I shot them as much as I could, and I fought them as much as I could, and I was able to kill like half of them. Because once the scrap jets damage 3 are gone, he's got to rely on the rocket trucks, in the docket jet. I believe I killed the other docket jet in just psychic phase alone because it was over on my side of the board, so it took all the blunt face of the psychic powers.
Mm-hmm.
And after the scrap jets kind of started to die down, he was in trouble because I still had like a lot of troops on the board. And I still had a few Dread Knights left. So then on his turn, he kind of pushed up and started hitting the infantry that I had just brought in from reserve. And it was there. I was losing infantry very fast, but I still had the 1 squad over in the corner. I had 1 guy live. Luckily, he was 1 guy left. he
The
survived and
the old lone survivor.
yeah, the lone guy. And I walked out with the rest of the Dread Knights after the and cleaned up the rest of the scrap jets like turn 3, and the Purifiers were all out towards center, holding the center objectives, and he pretty much just had like the Rucker trucks left. And as common theme, like the game was kind of over at that turn 4 because killing all the stuff that could really hurt the remaining Dread Knights kind of took him out of the game.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
seems to be the way to play against freebooters is first of all, you want to try to tag the scrap jets if you can, because their good shooting is blast, so they can't shoot into melee. So assuming any of them live, you can actually wallop them in melee pretty good. And then you got to survive that alpha strike, man. That alpha strike is nuts. And then the other thing is because they're like bringing all these flyers and these elites and these fast attacks. They're not bringing troops. So our OBSEC aura and the fact that we bring troops is good because you can, give that 10-man unit of Purifiers OBSEC. You can give that 5-man unit of Strike Marines double OBSEC, so they're effectively 10 units or 10 models. It's really strong.
That's another thing I try to do when I play Freebooters. I try to run up and tag as many things as I can in combat.
Yeah.
Because I think it's snake bites or something like that can fall back and shoot, but Freebooters can't.
I think it's Bad Moons.
Is it?
I
know it's one of the other clans, but I don't remember which one it is.
I'm actually.
So when I charge, I try to like, let's say there's the squad here and another squad here, like far back here.
Okay.
And I have my squad charge from here. I try to use all my movement to get over to touch this other squad with the full charge and everything. So I'll touch here, but then I'll streamline over as far as I can to hit this squad, and I'll consolidate, pile in, and I'll get as many squads as I can into that combat with from the freebooters.
Yeah, you're just trying to tar pit them as much as you can. Yeah. I'm actually wondering if we might not see more of the Bad Moons or whatever, Blood Axes. I don't remember which culture it is, but the fallback and shoot culture could really, they'd lose out on a little alpha strike because they won't get the rolling to hit buff, but they'd be able to not get tar pitted in combat. But
yeah, I think there might be some kind of nerf for the Freebooters, and if there is, then I'm sure the other cultures will start being much more prevalent.
It was funny when they started to do all the orc previews. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, it'll be snake bites. Everybody's gonna run snake bites," because it was everything in their army effectively gets ramshackle. Where if you don't shoot them with strength 8 or higher, it's forced to wound them all the time. And folks were like, "Oh my god, we're gonna see so many like." Beast Nagas running up that are, or even just boys running up with transhuman effectively, and it's just going to be a nightmare because you're used to them, if you get 1 AP, you can just kill boys, but if you're wounding on 4s, it's a lot harder to just off boys that way, but...
yeah, it's kind of where I fought a couple of those lists so far. The Stormbolters and Silencers really come in handy.
Even if you are going to wound on 5s, thanks to to boys being toughness 5 now.
Yeah, just the extra shots. I mean, once again, like every guy having the weapons, it really helps.
Yeah. All right, so that sounds like a really great game. It sounds like you got a little lucky, but you also played very well.
He said that I played it perfectly. I played it really well too. I kind of knew how I was going to do it, so.
You ended up scoring 93 against him, so you did pretty good.
Yeah. It was definitely, once I cleaned up everything, I was scoring all the points at the end, so.
Yeah. All right, so round 4, Custodes, double Telemon list, and everything else was pretty standard from what I can see here, so.
Yeah, those are like one of the harder matchups I find for Grey Knights, honestly. The good save, You know, if they make those 4+s, it's a tough game. Um, yeah, I've never been able to kill a Telemon before that game, and I was able to kill both that game. I was I was shocked. I played I mean, that was a list I lost to twice at the U.S. Open in Orlando. Was the 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 Telemon list with the Custodes. And the Venatari, even the Venatari with their pistol shots, damage 2, strength 6, I think it's AP 2. That really brings down Dread Knights fast. Like one squad double shooting into it with a double shoot stratagem, I believe was picking up a Dread Knight every time. Um, yeah, so I luckily got first turn that game, and he kind of deployed the Telemons aggressively because like that's kind of what Custodes do. You know, they're kind of like as one of my friends said, like they're kind of like that swinging axe, or like, you know, that slowly goes down. Like you're here, and there's that swinging axe that's slowly pendulum down, and like as soon as they hit you in that combat, then boom, it's over. Like that axe hits you, but the shooting is not like that super great, but it's constantly getting closer, that combat.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to luckily get first turn. I kind of like mind gamed him a little bit because he started to deploy a little bit on his left side and then his right side, and then I like took my tape measure out when I was deploying and started like measuring that left side, and took dice and placed stuff down to mark where lines of sights were, and he saw me do that. So then he decided to place more over there because I guess he felt like I was going over there. Because every time he placed a unit down, I was putting dice down to kind of measure my lanes of shooting
Mm-hmm.
over there. And I was like, I said where I'm going at first. But then when I realized he started seeing that and putting more units on that side, because Custodes do not have a lot of units.
No.
um, I said, okay, I'm going to keep doing this because I like the way he's putting all his stuff more over here now. But I'm going to go to the other side.
Yeah, he's got a total of 10 drops in this whole army list, and 4 of those are characters with 1 model in them, and 2 of them are Telemons with 1 model in them. So not a lot of models on the table.
He might have like 18 armies in this, 18 models in this whole army or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty elite for sure. Yeah.
So I luckily got first turn. I brought all the Dread Knights up with the Foretelling of Locust, where I'd have line of sight on one Telemon. And I gated over, and I threw out the I threw the Vortex out first to bait the 4+ deny, and then I threw out the amplification onto that Dread Knight. I did the Sword Bearers +1 to wound on the Telemon. So the Telemon was taking Empirical Amplification and the +1 to wound. And I had all my Dread Knights. I gated, I moved them up because I got first turn and he placed them aggressively. And I put everything, the whole army into them, including all of the side weapons from the silencers. Every single shot went into that Telemon. And I believe it died on the last shot.
Oh wow. Yeah, they are very hard to kill.
We were both shocked because I don't think he never loses them. He told me he never loses them on the first turn. And I was shocked too. I've never killed one. I had a feeling if I got all my buffs off, it was going to do well or at least hurt it. And it did. Luckily, that +1 damage on side weapons really helped out. And the Sword Bearers +1 to wound.
The +1 to wound is going to be huge because, like, they're a Telemon is toughness 8, 2 up save, 14 wounds. So, and that's before you include, they've got 4 up invul, I think. So they're very hard to kill. So if you use, was it Psychic Channeling or whatever, or no, Psychic Onslaught, and you have the +1 to wound, you can actually be wounding a Telemon on 2s, which is pretty significant. If you just use the strat, you're wounding them on 3s, which is still
he was running decent. He was running the one where you get -1 damage on Custodes, so he popped that immediately, which was like, it would hurt, but once again, the +1 to wound really helps.
Yeah. And the fact that you got the power off and then he had to use the CP right? And Custodes have a lot of very good defensive stratagems. So the more you can burn through their command points and make them lose that, that's actually like, yeah, it sucks because it negated your power, but also, he's losing CP that he needs later in the game as well.
Yeah. With all the buffs I had on him when I started shooting him, I think he went down to 2 CP after that because he
That's
paid the
huge.
no. I don't get any rerolls like from Caldor. Caldor's getting my all my Dread Knights rerolls except for the characters. So he didn't want that going off. And then I luckily was able to get him. It took the whole army, but it took him out. So he went ham. Like he said, I got two choices. I could back off and probably lose the game, or I could go super aggressive. So
Yeah.
he chose to go super aggressive. He brought out everything against me, and it hurt a lot. I had my Telemon. His other Telemon went into my Demon Hammer guy. I think turn 3, and I'm like, this is perfect. I had amplification on him, so it's D3 damage plus 4 with the amplification. He tanks. He made every save but one. I did 6 wounds to him because I made all the hits with the rerolls from Drago, giving him 4 rerolls, and I made all the wounds. I had to reroll a wound, and he failed. He rolled the saves and he made four of them. And he rerolled. He made 5. He only took 1 swing, and I thought I was in really bad shape. That's like I said, like when you play Custodes, if they get that turn where they pass a bunch of their 4-ups on their Telemons, and next turn the Telemons are hitting you, it's very hard. And that's kind of what happened. But luckily I killed the other Telemon turn 1. But that Telemon was just, it was not dying. It was just sitting there in the center of the board, doing its thing, and the Venatari were shooting me. And each Venatari squad, when he would double shoot one of the squads, was killing a Dread Knight or almost removing it.
Wow.
He brought up his shield captain because I brought my purifiers to hold the center objective, and he brought up his shield captain and charged right into him, which I loved because he couldn't fall back and charge with that shield captain. And the purifiers had the 4+ symbol on them with the feel no pain, and the spear on the Custode bike guy is only D3 damage. So he was not eating the purifiers were just sitting there happily just taking lots of damage from the shield captain, and they were trying their hardest to kill the shield captain, but he had made it so that it's one with he had given the warlord trait where he's +2 wounds and unkillable.
Yeah, 3-up invul and yeah.
They were just
I think they get a
just,
3-up invul. Yeah, they're
yeah,
super hard to kill in melee.
yeah. He had the bike with the 3+ symbol.
Yeah.
Like, and they were just sitting there, just staring each other in the face for a few turns, just fighting.
9 wounds.
Yeah. They have the warlord trait where they can get, I think it's 9 wounds on the one guy.
Yep.
And then Telemon, he wasn't dying, and he was killing units. And the game swung in my favor at first when I got that Telemon. And I thought, okay, I'm going to hold up and be all right. But then he moved out completely on his turn 2 and shot and did some damage to me. But when I shot back on my turn 2, I thought I was going to kill some stuff. He tanked his saves. And I was like, I'm in deep trouble. I'm in deep trouble. The Venatari came out, and he had another Dread Knight with the sword and shield. That came out, and just, they decimated my right flank. It was really bad. So I still had my left flank, and I had my center was like neutral because I had my Dread Knight fighting his Telemon, and my shield captain, his shield captain was fighting my purifiers. But my right flank was like devastated. And then he shot this on his turn. In the ongoing combat, he shot his Telemon into my jumping Dread Knight. They were in combat, and I jumped him out, and he was surprised about it because he thought I was going to fight first that turn because that was his turn, so I'll fight first. But I didn't want to take the shots from the Telemon and the combat. I thought I wasn't sure if I was going to kill it, so I let the Telemon live there, and I shunted it over to to my left flank because I was thinking I can pull around center again with them, with some squads off my left flank to kind of support my right flank that just got decimated. And Kaldor came out and charged the Venatari that had charged my right flank, that decimated my right flank. And he was able to do good with my remaining Dread Knight. And I was able to kill, like, he had that turn where he went turn 2, turn 3, I think it was. He killed all my Purifiers. He charged, when I jumped away, so he had just decimated my right flank. My Purifiers were here in the middle with my Dread Knight, Grandmaster. He decimated my right flank. My left flank was still strong. And then once I jumped away, the Grandmaster from the center, everything that he was playing super aggressive off that flank that he just destroyed, everything went into the Purifiers. And they just got decimated.
Oh. Rip
and
Knights of the Flame.
Had my left flank left. And I was worried about that. I was like, I have to, this is the turn. If on my next turn, after he decimated the center as well, I only had my left flank. I was like, I'm going to lose this game. I couldn't believe it because I already killed the Telemon and now I'm in the hole. Luckily, Kaldor walked out, and I find that happens sometimes. That's another reason I like Kaldor, because if you run those like 2 Tech Marines instead of Kaldor, like those Tech Marines are okay in combat, but they're not like Kaldor. Kaldor can walk out there and really just hit something so hard. And once I'm down to like 1 or 2 Dread Knights, Kaldor can walk out there and be like that 3rd Dread Knight in combat and really just decimate something. And that's kind of what happened. Like, Kaldor came out, he was able to hold the right side objective for me, like pretty much by himself with, I think it was 1 other unit. And then I took that left side Dread Knight that I had just warped out, brought it back over, did double powers on the Telemon, and finally finished it off. So once I finally finished that off, everything charged the captain died, and he was just out of units. And then once again, turn 4, turn 5, he's looking with like barely any units left. And I'm still like, I still have some units around the board, and I have gate to reposition myself and hold objectives. I was able to win. I killed all of his Telemons, and like all the Venatari were gone. So all the big units that were really just decimating the Dread Knights were gone. And I still had, I think, the 2 Dread Knights left, kind of like slowly like holding stuff. And Kaldor just like holding it like a champ.
Yeah, his 3F Invul, he's really good in combat. Even that mastercrafted Stormbolter can surprise you with 2 damage.
Oh yeah, yeah, damage with that mastercrafted really helps.
Well,
but yeah, that was a tough game that swung heavily in my favor, then in his favor. And I thought I was going to lose, but then I was able to pull it back in. But that's kind of how it goes with Custodes too. It's like that pendulum hit me, and it just decimated that side of the board.
Yeah.
But I was luckily able to get back in it.
Well, I've only got about 10 minutes left, and we got 2 more rounds. So round 5 was another mirror against Grey Knights. This one was a little different. He went Blades of Victory and Wardmakers.
Oh yeah. He actually had incinerators. He had maxed out Purifying Flames, a lot of them, lots of Purifying Flames. But once again, like Grey Knights on Grey Knights, I can deny all those Purifying Flames powers well. And also, like, he exposed his Dread Knights first again. I was holding back. I learned from the first game to hold my Dread Knights back more. And then when he pushed up with his Dread Knights on earlier on, I brought out all my Dread Knights. I started killing him faster than he was killing mine. So then he ran out faster before than I ran mine. He also had a squad of
Paladins.
Yeah. And he failed. He gated him over on my side objective and tried to charge him, and he failed the charge. He actually went into celerity just to get the 3s on the charge.
Yeah.
And he failed it, and that was really big because I only had 1 strike squad holding that objective, and that was scoring me my 5 points every turn, part of my 5 points on the primary. And then when he failed it, and I had a turn where I didn't shoot the Grandmaster that he could jump around once. He brought it out. I had a turn where I charged it with all my Purifiers, a Dread Knight, Drago, my Apothecary, and a Grandmaster. And he was out of command points to interrupt, and he popped the 3+ symbol, but with just a pure weight of fire, each guy slowly chipped off the essential wounds to kill it. It was, yeah. It was quite the game. He's a very good player. And once again, he did not take Purifying Ritual. He told me that. Well, the other guy took Purifying Ritual, but he told me he was scared to take Purifying Ritual because of the denies. But I took it, and I was doing the thing where I said, "Well, I'm trying to throw out my powers to get him to throw his denies out, so then I could save my good powers." Because even if you're down in Purifying Ritual towards the end, if you spend your command points for rerolls and you get the last 2 at 6s, last 2 turns, it's 12 points.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like I'm not too worried if I'm only at 3 points turn 2 on Purifying Ritual. I know I still got 3 more turns to pick up the rest.
Yeah, that's a great point. So lots of incinerators. Even the paladins had Purifying Flame because you can choose what power they have now. They had
he had max out
chaplain
purifiers
as well.
Yeah, he had the chaplain he did the +1 cast for blessings, which is nice because then you get the +1 to cast for Gate Infinity.
Yeah, it's that's the way that Jake Harding from Vanguard Tactics likes to roll his chaplain as well, is the Invocation of Focus. Yeah, pretty big. I mean, that's a 6-inch bubble of +1 to cast, which is huge. Yeah.
I don't like it just because it's not like a Chief Apothecary or Master Apothecary, or not Apothecary.
I know.
So you get the roll, but
yeah. Well,
it's.
Yeah, I wish our chaplains had gotten some more love as well, but and our apothecaries, but I mean it's still a strong book. Yeah. So you fought the Boogeymen. You fought Dark Eldar for round 6, last round.
Yeah, Parker had just lost to Nick. He was undefeated before that. And Nick, so I think he learned a lot about Grey Knights from that game. And Parker actually beat Lennon. Lennon had some bad luck with some Incubi with his Imperial Knights, and the Incubi did a lot of work. That game is where my teleporter. Sometimes if I play Dark Eldar, I really have to go for the Dark Lances, and those are the Raiders. Parker actually had a Ravager too, because once the Raiders die, the Dread Knights don't die that as well unless it's the Incubi. So number 1, I always go for the Raiders. Number 2, I go for the Incubi. If the Incubi are out there in the open for some reason, which they're probably not, they're probably in the Raiders, then I go for the Incubi. But the D3 plus 3 damage is so good against the Dread Knights. So first turn, I got first turn. He deployed behind all of this terrain. I deployed behind all my terrain. Everybody was hiding.
Yep.
I paid 2 command points to shunt the one shunting guy over to see the Ravager, and I gated with the Gem of Anaktu, the other Grandmaster, my Swordbearer Grandmaster, over there with him. So I had 2 Dread Knights over on the side that could see the Ravager. Between psychic powers and shooting, they killed the Ravager, and they killed they wounded one of the Raiders. So I had the 2 Dread Knights over there on the side. The rest of my stuff is behind buildings, and then his stuff's behind buildings too. So I gated over and shunted over. I used, I think, 4 command points to do that, 2 to shunt, 1 to psychic onslaught. I think I had to reroll a power or 2. So then he chose to, which I'm not too sure if it was the right play, but he chose to go all out to kill those 2 Dread Knights. He brought out his, all the Incubi that are on that side, Hellions are on that side. He brought over the Raider to charge it to suck up the Overwatch. He brought over the Archon, and he decimated. He killed both. He killed the Grandmaster and the other Dread Knight. They were both dead. Turn 2. He did the 4 rerolls, the wound for the Hellions with command points. And I knew that I wasn't sure if he was going to do it. I knew he was going to commit to that side, but I wasn't sure if he was going to commit with his close combat units. I thought he would just shift his raiders over and shoot me with all his dark lances. But he chose to just go ham and kill them all, and he did. He killed both the Dread Knights. The problem was he's out in the open now. He was out in the open with the Incubi, all the Hellions, one raider that sucked up the charge, and I still have my Dread Knights. And the Purifiers had been steadily moving up the board on the first turn. So the second turn, they moved up again, and they had line of sight. And I moved the Dread Knights. I gated the Dread Knight. Everything went into that side. Everything took out. I basically took out that whole side. So he lost almost that whole side, because I killed the Ravager, and then he brought all his combat out to kill that side. And then I brought out everything to kill off that side. So I've kind of decimated his. So I'm looking at the board. His left side, my right, is kind of decimated now. I still have some units holding mine. He still has some units holding his. But I was still holding mine pretty well in this corner. This corner was barely holding because I moved the Purifiers up. But the Purifiers were not getting shot. And he was shooting the Dread Knights and going for the Dread Knights. So then the Purifiers, they moved up again, and they just charged everything left on that side that I had just cleaned out almost everything. So then all of a sudden, now I'm holding that side, my back side, my left side, and he only has that one side. So I pretty much have 3/4 of the board, and he only has the 1/4 of the board. He also had like a really unlucky thing happen where he charged a raider into 3 interceptors that I moved him up to get engaged on all fronts, I think it was, and he brought a raider out to charge him. I'm not too sure why he did that. I think he felt like it was a fine thing a raider could kill like a wounded and 2 interceptors, and he killed the 1 interceptor, but 2 interceptors killed the raider. I was in the Mortal Wound Tide. I swung all the swing, and the 2 interceptors actually killed the raider. Very unlikely.
Wow.
But it happens. So all of his Trueborn with Dark Lances, the Dark Lance and the Blasters were out in the open now. He did not expect, because he had it placed where after he killed them, I figured, after he consolidates, he could have it so that when that vehicle dies, he could get the Trueborn behind stuff. Mm-hmm. Like after he moves up, he gets stuff like that. But it didn't happen. They swung and they killed. I interrupted, I believe. I can't remember how it worked, but I swung and I killed it with two interceptors. Killed that raider. It was a wounded raider because I had moved up. First turn, I had shot it with those interceptors. But I couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it either. I was very lucky there. And then on my turn, I walked out and I shot the Trueborn until they were dead. And Trueborn out in the open are not that hard to kill. Yeah. So after he lost the Trueborn and he lost his other flank, he tried to move up a little bit against me, but then I was I was in all the terrain, holding the objectives. He conceded turn 4 because he didn't have enough to hold much.
Yeah.
And I was kind of holding everything steadily, and he didn't have any his push was dead. His Incubi, he only had the 1 squad of Incubi left. It was out of position, and his Hellions were dead. His Trueborn were dead. So once again, turn 4 and turn 5, I just cleaned up on points.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but hey, it was really fun to do, man.
That sounds like the opposite of the way that I usually end up playing Drukhari, where I always feel like I'm on the back foot the whole time, and they're all over the board. But you got to
So against Dark Eldar, I'm always extremely aggressive, and that's because of the Purifiers. I push those Purifiers up center. I push them very hard, and they have to go for them. And the Witches don't kill them very well. If I have the Sanctuary on them and the Feel No Pain, and I make a -1 damage, even 2 squads of Incubi don't kill those 10 Purifiers that well.
Nice.
And he's got to turn off the Overwatch, because if he charges me, I Overwatch his full rerolls from Drago. That's a lot of shots going in those little squads. So I can usually get, if I play aggressively, I can usually get them to commit to kill the Purifiers or kill Like that game, I played aggressively with the 2 Dread Knights, or to play aggressively to kill the Dread Knights, and then the rest of my army can kind of come out and really what, because it's not hard to kill Dark Eldar. It's just they're very fast and they hide, and then they'll jump out and they'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like once I get like units exposed, I could really just start cleaning up, and it's kind of what happened.
That's an excellent point. And unfortunately, I have to drop because I've got to start my morning meetings right now. But I would love to talk. Yeah, I would love to talk to you more, man. If you're open to it.
Can I plug real quick? My Louis Bencourt did Tampa, Florida Onslaught GT 11.6 to 11.7. He runs a great event. It's the next GT I'm going to.
That's awesome.
If anybody's in the area, Tampa area, it's at Strange World Games. It's a great event. Yeah, sorry. I told Louis that.
No, man, plug away.
I'm going to myself, so I'll see you guys there if you guys end up going.
Well, thank you very much, David. I'm sorry we have to cut this a little short, but thanks for all your time and your insights. And for all of you out there, don't forget to like and comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. And call your mother.